few product line pricing principles. I have taken two detergents and I have given the what you call this for detergent 1 this cost is 10 for labor, for detergent 2 it is 15, let us say. Similarly, material cost, overhead cost, all these costs. Now, what is the method of pricing you can adopt? For this particular detergent 1, suppose you adopted the full cost price, then it is labor cost plus material cost plus overhead cost. This could be one pricing. The other method of pricing could be based on incremental cost, that is 1 plus 2, labor plus material, or it could be on conversion cost, that is again labor plus overhead cost. So, if you adopted that, you may find when you look at the markups that you should do for these detergents, suppose you looked at full cost pricing with a 20% markup, detergent 1 and detergent 2 get priced at the same level 42 and 42. So, this should be actually 30-15 for the detergent 1, 25-25 for the detergent 2, similarly 10 for the detergent 1 and 15 for the detergent 2 in the labor cost. So, the incremental cost, if you look at the incremental cost pricing, when you do this at 40% markup, detergent 1 becomes 42, that is detergent 2 becomes 35, that is detergent 1 becomes 7 rupees more compared to detergent 2. Suppose you adopt the conversion cost pricing and you do a markup of 180%, then what is going to happen? Detergent 2 will become 1 will become 42, detergent 2 will become 70. So, if you are the producer of detergent 2, you are better off doing the incremental cost pricing. If you are a producer of detergent 1, whether you are doing full cost pricing or incremental cost pricing or conversional cost pricing, it really does not matter. So, all the onus for changing the strategies of pricing falls on detergent 2 manufacturer only. Okay. Now, if you look at the marketing life cycle, this marketing life cycle can be visualized as, if you see, you have the brand, your brand coming in. First thing is what you do with respect to advertising and awareness. Second is the merchandising. Third is the sales and service. Fourth is the sales transaction. The fifth is the transaction processing. The sixth is the fulfillment. Seventh is the post sales service. Then the eighth is the real marketing. So, you have the customer at the central place, the brands revolving around the customer, so advertising and sales awareness, merchandising, then sales service, sales transaction, transaction processing, then fulfillment, post sales service and marketing. All these coming and representing what we call marketing life cycle. Okay, you go through a marketing life cycle using all these things with respect to any product or product line as well. We now come into what is called relationship marketing. What is this relationship marketing? You are going through 5 phases. One is making aware of the product or the market or the brand. Then the parties recognize that they may be suitable exchange partners. Tentative interaction takes place. Then when you explore, what happens? Trial purchases may take place. Relationship has not really formed up. It is fragile. 5 sub-phases are proposed. One is attraction, communication and bargaining, development and exercise of power, and development of relationship norms and development of expectations. This is what happens when you are using a startup firm to come out with products, exploring different avenues for your marketing, and so many people come and start doing this relationship marketing and try to say that yes, this we will see that all these products which are put out by you are having the desired this thing in the marketplace. They go through all these stages. Phase 3 is expansion. The range and depth of mutual dependence increases. The 5 sub-phases at phase 2 also operate in this phase. The 4th stage is commitment, where you are looking at loyalty. Customer or seller loyalty has been achieved. The party sees active research for alternative partners. The three measurable criteria of commitment are inputs, durability, and consistency. This is in fact how you evaluate a channel member also. Last stage is where you dissolve this relationship marketing. That is, dissolution may take place at any phase of the relationship. That is, the relationship need develop no further than awareness. The process of relationship are even today not very well understood. For a successful relationship marketing, you require a supportive culture, a good internal marketing. You should understand your customer expectations. You should have a sophisticated customer database, and you should have new organizational structures and reward schemes as the market progresses. This is what you are finding with reference to different TV operators right now in India. You have the Airtel service provider, you have the the Videocon service provider, you have the Tata Sky, you have the Sun, so many people. All of them are vying for a market share. So if you are using Videocon, you may get a call from Tata Sky saying that these packages are being offered. Would you like to switch over from Airtel to Tata Sky? These things are becoming really common in the Indian marketplace now. All this makes the job of relationship marketing very important. And all this is represented by this diagram. Is you have the investor loyalty, and there is a two-way relationship between the customer loyalty and the investor loyalty. Center portion representing the business loyalty, and there is again a two-way interaction between the investor loyalty and the employer loyalty, and again between the employer loyalty and the customer loyalty. So you should have a good internal marketing in place to see that this relationship marketing succeeds. All this brings you to the role of the product manager. So you should have a product manager in your organization. This product manager is the one who plans, implements, and monitors the results. Suppose it is a consumer product, may have fewer products, then he has to spend more time on advertising and sales promotion. Suppose it is an industrial product, should be well versed with the technical aspects, design inputs, and he should spend more time with lab and engineering personnel. So he should be willing to interact with them. For an organization, it would be better to have a product manager because it gives certain advantages. One is it can result in a cost-effective marketing mix. It can result in quicker reactions to market problems. Can also ensure that your smaller brands are not neglected. So you put enough time, adequate time on the smaller brands also. Suppose you are an young executive, it can be a good training for young executives in all areas of company operations. You interact with practically everyone in the organization, starting from production down to marketing. As a product manager, you have a free entry to all these different departments, and you have a free access to information which is not easily possible in other roles in a company. So the product manager enjoys this type of this information access in an organization, can be very useful for him to devise strategies. Okay, having a product manager would be a great advantage the person who enters an organization as a product manager, because he will get exposure to almost all the departments in the organization. But along with that, there are some, if you want to call them negatives, some negatives are also there. Like they have access to information in almost all the departments of the company. Most of the times, these product managers are not given enough authority. In other words, they cannot override the authority of the people in the functional areas. At best, they can make some suggestions. There is no guarantee that these suggestions should be taken by the personnel in the functional areas. Other point which comes next to these product managers is they become experts in their product, but they rarely become experts in any functions. with respect to their product, they become experts. For the organization, it is a costly exercise because you should have number of persons acting as product managers for their different products. Most of these product managers, they hold on for a short time. You cannot expect them to be a long time employee of the organization. So this is one of the things which organizations try to keep in their mind when they say you'll have a product manager. Suppose you becomes an expert and he wants to leave within an year, then the organization would have invested considerable amount on him. He becomes an expert in their product, in his particular product, but next time his services will not be there for the company. Organizations sometimes are wary of having too many product managers also. In contrast to these product managers, now organizations are looking at product managers to product team approach. That is, you have a product manager, you have under him an assistant product manager, and then under him a product assistant or whatever you want to call that. So this can form a vertical product team. What happens when you have a team approach? That is, somebody wants to leave the organization also. There is a buffer which is available with the organization which can take care of the activities of the product managers group for some time. You can also have a triangular product team where you have the product manager. Under him you have the market research person and the communication specialist. You can also have a horizontal product team approach where you have product manager, under him you have the research person, you have the communications person, you have the sales manager, you have the distribution specialist, you have the engineering department, you have the finance department. It is the engineering personnel, finance personnel, all in this horizontal product team approach which you can adopt. So the result is why are you doing this team approach? As I mentioned, the team approach provides the organization sufficient cushion. So the product manager's activities are keenly observed by all the people working under him. And if for some reason the product manager wants to leave the organization, then the product team will take over for some time before you have one more product manager in position. So this is the advantage of having a product manager, becoming a product manager in an organization. Sometimes some of the negatives with respect to the organization and also with reference to the individual. We have seen individual not enough authority given. He cannot override the functional area's authority. Become experts in their product. But for the organization, they are a costly exercise. Many times don't hold on for a long time, only for a short time. So in order to have cushion, you can go instead of one product manager to product team approach where you have a buffer coming in the form of the assistant product manager or the product assistant in the vertical production team, in the vertical product team, in the triangular product team. It can be product manager, under him the market research person, communication specialist. Under the horizontal product team you have the research, communication, then the sales, then the distribution, then the engineering people, then the finance people, all coming under product managers, closely observing what the product manager is really doing or what is the type of ideas contribution which is coming in from him, so that in case of need some buffer is available to the organization. So we stop here, we continue in the next class. Thank you.